I've only played D&D online on Discord before, and had joined a Discord server with multiple D&D campaigns. The DMs were just various members of the server who applied to be mods for permission to run a campaign, and one of them just started a couple weeks ago, but because of good luck with timing and schedules, we've been able to have multiple sessions on the last couple of weeks, so even though we just started a week ago, we're already on the 5th session because there were 3 days in a row that we had sessions last week and then had the 4th and 5th sessions 2 days in a row. Most of our characters are normal D&D races, albeit one, our paladin, has a very homebrewed backstory, but the difference is the player consulted with and got permission for the DM for this backstory, and worked together with the DM to stop the character from being too OP. But there's one character, our barbarian, who is apparently a Homestuck troll OC for some reason. She got permission from the DM to have that race, but she didn't have the permission for some other mechanics she tried to homebrew in, and didn't warn them of it because she seemed to forget that she's the only one in the whole campaign who read Homestuck. And when confronted about it, she said, "If you don't want to read it, there's a YouTube series of people reading it." But like, what if there's other stuff I'd rather do in my free time? So long story, but because of reasons, we needed to get a specific magical ore for a blacksmith to improve our weapons in order to be able to conjure some kind of enemy, but the only known source of the ore was in a mine overrun with bandits. After fighting off the bandits, while the rest of our characters go back to return the ore that the blacksmith needed, the Homestuck troll barbarian instead stays behind in the mine to wander around, apparently hearing voices. This was way back in like the 2nd session, I think, which would have been a Friday, but I forget exactly when. Jump forward a week, and we're now at the end of the 4th session. So we got directions, and we were told to go to a certain village on the other side of the mountain from our starting village, because we had reason to believe the Herald, whom seemed to be the big bad enemy of the campaign, is there. On the way to the other village, we come across various people screaming about a plague and see a few dead bodies with completely non-magical, according to Nat 20 Arcana checks, weird glowing blue crystals. We stopped to camp for the night in-game, planning on ending it for the night, especially since one of the campaign members was in a different time zone and it was already 4 AM for her by that point. But right before we do so, the Homestuck troll barbarian decided to run off into the forest to look for the big bad all alone, in the exact opposite direction of where we were told to look for him. At the start of the 5th session, the day later, she says to retcon the thing with her character running off, passive-aggressively saying she wants to retcon because no one seemed to care, even though we said our characters were going to look for her. We just had to stop because we had been playing for like 9 hours at that point, and one person needed to go to sleep. We get to the town our characters were told to go to and try to help around with scouting for what the source of the plague is. The barbarian says she doesn't feel so good and passes out, and eventually wakes up, but is paralyzed. So the paladin brings her to the healing area in town and tries to cast various healing spells on the barbarian, all of which fail, and tries to use a healing potion on her, which also fails, and was one of our last 3 or so healing potions, so that's great. We're about 4 hours into the session now, and we just fought off an attempted attack by a bunch of diseased people on the healthy town. Keep in mind, this whole 4 hours the person is playing the barbarian was still in session. In the voice call, they muted themselves, but they've always been muted in voice calls and exclusive type, and I hadn't noticed them typing in a couple hours except to call us stupid for not knowing how to heal her character. Keep in mind, we asked her multiple times how to heal her character and what's wrong with her character, since healing spells and one of our last healing potions failed, and the most we got was something about slime in the beginning of the session, and upon asking what the significance of the slime is, she copy and pasted something from the Homestuck wiki and bolded and underlined the sentence, that it stated that submergement in soap or slime aids sleep and help assuage the terrible visions of blood and carnage that plagued the dark subconscious of their species, and then got angry at us for not knowing the meaning of some other words: recuperacoons, subjugulator, chuckle voodoo, and the definitions she just copied and pasted. After calling us stupid for half an hour, where we kept asking her what was wrong with her character and why the character is paralyzed, keep in mind, she didn't have permission from the DM, so she didn't have to keep doing this. She willingly sat out an entire 4 hours doing nothing but complaining that she couldn't do anything. But whose decision was that? She finally told us something. Apparently the voices she heard, without consulting the DM beforehand, and none of our characters were there with her anyway, so she wanted to metagame us and remember a single tiny scene she hadn't mentioned since it happened 3 sessions ago, was actually the Herald, the big bad enemy we were searching for in the village, who hadn't even been introduced yet in the game at the time she would have heard voices. The DM pointed out that she didn't have permission and hadn't asked them beforehand about if she could talk to the Herald yet. You know, the whole character hadn't even been introduced yet thing. After revealing this to us, the barbarian still wouldn't give us solutions and continued to call us stupid for not remembering a tiny scene none of our characters had been involved with 3 sessions ago. As far as I could tell, the only solution for the problem she got herself into without DM approval is for our low-level characters to go to the big bad of the campaign, when we're, admittedly by the DM himself, far too low-level to fight him, and just ask him to heal one of our party members who is paralyzed. So are we supposed to just fight a too high-level enemy while we're down a player? How and why would the big bad of the story possibly help one of the people who is supposed to be stopping him? Unless she wanted her character to betray us. It'd be one thing if, I don't know, the plot of the campaign was that this NPC has some mysterious incurable disease that makes them paralyzed. You must find a cure with a full party of party members who are actually able to do stuff. But that's not the plot, and as far as I can tell, she basically wants to, sit out the whole campaign being paralyzed? While out of character, she passive-aggressively calls us stupid for hours? Why even be in a campaign at that point if you're just going to roleplay being paralyzed for reasons the DM himself disapproves of? This is just weird. I've never heard of a player inflicting an injury on themselves and especially being quiet about how to get help so that they can do stuff. It sounds like she expects everyone to pour their time into something that only she likes. I like Homestuck as much as the next person, but I'm not going to subject people to thousands of pages of material to understand my character. But what are your thoughts?